Make your voice heard.
Welcome to Terry's Songwriter Show. This week in the show we have Nigel Parry who's performing his first song, Our Tim Is Missing.
Hey everyone, where's our Timmy? Hey everyone, where's our Tim? We haven't set eyes on him since last night, when the world took to shaking. We hope he's alright. It seems such a normal Sunday, out playing in the sun, getting so late when we put him to bed. His eyes looked so tired when I kissed his wee head. Then I awoke to a terrible sound. The whole house was rocking, we rolled to the ground. Dad said it was a real big earthquake, and I don't understand, but we're all really shaken. When we looked, Tim couldn't be found.
Nigel Parry with Our Tim Is Missing up with me on a show today, so welcome back, Nigel.
Oh, thank you very much. I haven't actually been back for, I think, 4 years, something like that. We're both a bit older and greyer and probably a tiny bit fatter since the last time I was here. But anyway, that song, there's a story behind it. I mean, songs are very often stories, and that tells a little story. But there's a story behind it as well, which is after the Kaikoura earthquakes, the town of Kaikoura was in a real mess and cut off and having all sorts of problems. And there was some fundraisers for the Red Cross. And a lady in Levin called Jo Sheffield had the idea that, hey, you know, Kaikoura's a real community, and music's a community as well, and especially folk music. So why don't we all get together and put some concerts together to raise funds?
Right.
And so she started the ball rolling, and this kind of took off, and there ended up being fundraiser concerts and hats passed around all around the country for this. And I actually played in 2 of the concerts. I was playing in Levin on the Saturday and up in Hastings on the Sunday. Mm-hmm. So on Saturday morning I composed this song, and I thought, well, you know, it's a big story, but why don't you tell the story of the earthquake and the effect on people by telling a little story?
Right.
So that's the background to the song and how I came up with the idea, and then it just sort of happened quite organically and quite quickly.
All right. So you wrote this for the Kaikoura earthquake.
I wrote it especially for the Kaikoura earthquake, and it's still actually up on my website, where you can link through to Bandcamp, and if you want to buy it, download it, all the funds still go to the Red Cross Kaikoura appeal until the end of November.
Oh, fantastic. That sounds really good. So there you have it, listeners. Check out the Our Tim Is Missing on Nigel Parry's website. And
my website is nigelmusic.co.nz. So if you go there, the first story, the thing at the top, takes you right to the blog post, which is the story all about the song with links to where you can listen to it, watch it, buy it. I actually recorded it in the backyard. If you listen carefully to the recording, you can hear birds tweeting and things in the background as well. A little bit of rustling of the leaves, maybe in an old totara tree.
Yes, indeed. That sounds good indeed too, Nigel. Yes. All right, we'll go to your second number now, which is called "The Day the Bank Closed Its Doors." And what's the reason behind this song?
This song actually, it's one that seems to resonate with an awful lot of people wherever I play, and I do play around New Zealand, not just around Wellington and in festivals, and do the odd tour and things like that. And I was asked to play a gig at this particular town. And so I went up there on my way up somewhere else, or down. I'm not going to tell you where it is at the moment. And went to the hotel. I was going to be playing at a hotel pub, and on the opposite corner is a bank, but it's all closed and empty. And it seemed a bit symbolic of rural New Zealand and decay and everyone leaving and towns gradually closing down. Because this particular town, there's an awful lot of shops on the high street, and they're not shops anymore. They're all closed down. So the idea, it's one of these things that tends to happen sometimes. I wake up in the night, early in the morning, and this little thing is going round in my head. And so I wrote the song and actually performed it at the hotel on the Sunday. But when I do sing it around New Zealand, I normally play this game where I say, I'm going to play this song, and at the end of it, you can shout out what town you think this song is about.
Okay.
And I get all, suggestions, really towns from all over New Zealand, people guess. Every so often, in fact, only twice, I think people have guessed the right town.
Right.
But they come up with towns from literally all around the country, and it seems to resonate with people wherever I go. And not just in New Zealand either. So if I play the song, maybe you'll get a vague idea of what it's about. And this is live, so if there's any fluffs, they're entirely mine, and nothing to do with any wonderful recording you may have.
Okay.
For years it stood in the centre of town, drawing folks in as they walk up and down. A castle to commerce, centre of trade, with unnatural high windows all edged nice and neat, strong pillars and carvings commanding the high street, a cathedral where now there are none come to pray. Since the day the bank closed its doors for the last time, the day the bank closed its doors, the day the bank closed its doors for the last time, the day the bank closed its doors. This town was once a thriving old place, the centre for folk who lived miles around, but the highway drove by and took trade away. Well, there was still plenty of sheep to shave, but the stores had all closed now thanks to Pack and Save, and the old hotel sign starts to peel and fade. It does. Since the day the bank closed its doors for the last time, the day the bank closed its doors, the day the bank closed its doors for the last time, the day the bank closed its doors. Station was a place for folk coming and going. Now windowless trains rumble by without slowing, past the old village school, now childless and still. This town lost its heart and soul the day all those doors closed, though the name lingers on. So many have gone. Just letters on a plate by the speed limit sign, a word on the map by a big yellow line. The world hurries on, but the town struggles by. Since the day the bank closed its doors for the last time, the day the bank closed its doors, the day the bank closed its doors for the last time, the day the bank closed its doors.
Nigel Parry, word for day, the bank closes doors, and a very interesting song indeed. It sums it up, like as well. It's really good, so well done to you, my man.
I'm going to tease and not tell you what town it is. You might have to come along to one of my gigs and ask me, or shout out what you think it is, and I'll tell you the answer at the end of the gig. How about
All
that?
right, okay, that's fine. I will, if I ever get round to it,
Yeah.
Find something to do.
Yeah, I know it's a bit of a tease, but it's more fun that way.
Yeah, of course. Yes, no worries at all. Yeah. So, who are your musical influences there, Nigel?
Oh, many, many and varied. I mean, when I was at college, I was a rock singer.
Yeah.
And then I kind of discovered folk music through historical reenactment events, friends, real ale.
Yeah.
So it just kind of took over from there, really. I suppose my influences, I went through a big folk rock phase with Steel Ice Band and Fairport Convention and the Albion Band and all those sort of things. And I still love that kind of music. I also love the more sort of bare, stripped back, raw stuff like your Martin Carthys of this world, Alan Taylor, James Taylor. I play some James Taylor songs.
Oh, yeah.
I play quite a lot of covers when I'm playing around pubs and bars in town rather than my own stuff, because people want stuff that's more familiar and stuff that's a bit more up tempo. But occasionally I get to wheel out my my own quieter, more melodic stuff.
Right.
So yeah, I'm sure I've got many sort of weirder influences that if you go through my music collection on my phone, which I play in the car when I'm driving on tour or on long journeys, it is honestly weird. It's everything from Tibetan chants to Black Sabbath to folk music to Manu Chao to reggae. I mean, it's got to influence you, really, hasn't it?
Yeah. There's essentially great influences there, particularly James Taylor was one of them.
Yeah, Millworker is one of the ones of his I do, which I absolutely love. I mean, he wrote it as a song for a play, for a musical. Actually, it's supposed to be a women's song, but he recorded it on Flag, so hell, I'll play it as well.
Okay. Good stuff. I was going to indeed say yes. And of course, do you want to remind the listeners about your website?
Website www.nigelmusic.co.nz. So that's the home of everything. If you look on the top right-hand side, you can actually sign up for my newsletters, and they are so occasionally, and I'm not going to bombard your inbox. It's whenever I get around to it, and also I'll send you some free music on MP3s so you can listen to some demos, including something we're going to hopefully play at the end of the show here.
Right.
So there's some good free stuff there as well, and I tend to cover other musicians as well around town. So there's all sorts of useful info in there. And it's also got links to Bandcamp, SoundCloud, all the stuff you'd expect, and Facebook, of course, which I had to do stuff on. And weirdly enough, Twitter, where I've picked up thousands of followers all around the world. Obviously got niche, obscure music that resonates with people from all sorts of different countries and walks of life. Which is kind of gratifying, really, that there are people who actually listen to this stuff.
Yeah, interesting. That's good. So if you ever listeners, check out nigelmusic.co.nz and any other stuff you can find on Bandcamp, SoundCloud, with links into it. There you have it. So he's got it all in all two minutes. And it's all good indeed. So yes. All right, we'll go to your third number now, which is called Flowers in Autumn, is it?
Yeah, it is. And I'm just going to play a little teaser bit of it because it's actually quite a long song, and it started off as a story. I originally wrote it as a short story, and it was a weird emotional experience. It was one of the ones where I woke up in a cold sweat at night with this story in my head, and I just had to wake up and go downstairs and write it all down. With tears in my eyes. It was that kind of story.
Yeah.
And a while later, I actually thought, how make this into a song, which is really hard because there's a lot less words in a song. So trying to condense things and leave stuff out was tough. And I'm only going to play you a little teaser because it's still a slightly longish song.
Right.
But if you can imagine, this is part of my historical and traditional music roots, I suppose, in a way.
Yeah.
Imagine a time when the ships were made of wood and it was the men that were made of iron.
Right.
So I'm just going to play you a little teaser of the start of the song.
She was young and in service. He worked hard with his hands. But when their eyes met, they were held with invisible bands to a rock on the hillside. Together they'd go and gaze to their distant dreams over the boats moored below. But the townsfolk knew he was made of golden thread, and flowers would spring, winter or summer, wherever he'd tread. Flowers in autumn, flowers in autumn, he treads, they said, spring flowers, sweet flowers, in autumn. Then news of the conflict, and they couldn't agree. When the town promised a ship, manned and ready for sea, she begged him to linger, but he went with the crew. And she cried up on the rock, over the harbour she knew. And I'm going to leave it there because it's quite a long story, and you might have to come along to one of my more melodic gigs just to find out what the rest of the story is and how our hero and heroine get on through some fairly harrowing times.
Right.
So that's a bit of a teaser. And where am I going to be playing that next? Well, I just played it down at the Southern Cross with an amazing guitarist, Harry Rowland, and there'll be more of that.
Yep.
I'm at Welly Fest, which is the Wellington Folk Festival this Labour weekend. So you'll hear it there. And I've got a couple of other gigs around Wellington after that. It's all going to be listed on my website, which is normally hopelessly out of date, but occasionally I go through a flurry and update where I'm playing next. So keep an eye on that, and hopefully be able to hear the rest of the song. God, I had tease today.
No, that's no problem. That's good. It's quite a good DC, isn't it? So yeah. All right. So you've been involved in any other bands or anything like that when you were in UK or anything like that?
In the UK, I was. Yeah, I was involved for some years in a band called Black Velvet, which was mainly a duo with other things as well. And we played sort of folk rock stuff. I played acoustic guitar, electric guitar, mandolin, sang quite a bit with a chap called Ian Mason, who is no longer with us, actually. I was contacted by his ex-partner's daughter through Facebook a couple of months ago. And he wasn't terribly old, certainly not ancient, but he tripped and had a really bad fall and hit his head on some concrete.
Goodness.
And unfortunately they couldn't save him, so he's lost to the world now, which was a bit of a shock when I heard about that, because I used to sit next to him and play music with him for hours, and we'd do tours around the Midlands and folk clubs and pubs and things. In New Zealand I've been involved in a number of bands. Current projects, I play what I call creative percussion with the Emma Gatsby band, so hi Emma if you're listening, which is wonderful because we can take her music and make beautifully multi-layered soundscapes with it. You think sort of Portishead kind of stuff is.
Right.
So it's actually really cool music she's written with all these extra musicians, about 6-7 of us. I've got this duo going with Harry Rowland now, who's a fellow Yorkie folkie, because I'm originally from Yorkshire in England. And we play some dark folk stuff like that, Flowers in Autumn stuff. And there's some other collaborations. I occasionally play with Rob Whelan, who's my housemate, and we play some fun, more sort of rockish stuff.
Cool.
And I've got some other little collaborations and a few surprises in store as well. So if you come along to things I'm involved with, you might find some other musicians there as well.
Yeah.
And we play some cool stuff. One of my things that I really like doing is harmonies. Either singing them or singing with other people singing harmonies. It really puts hairs on the back of your neck when it works.
Yeah.
Well, and so you'll find some of those in some of the stuff I do as well around town. Either because I'm singing harmonies for other people, or they're singing harmonies for me, or both. And it's just great. Music like this is the most fun you can have with your clothes on. It's absolutely brilliant. I really enjoy it.
Fantastic. That's good. Just keep it up there, and you'll be all right.
Thank you.
No problems there at all. All right, we'll go to your next number now. We'll do When the Rain Comes, I think, in like as well. So,
right, okay. This again, there's a story behind it. We probably haven't got long here now because the clock is going to be a ticking. But that one, I really like things like where music can actually do something rather than just be a self-indulgent thing. Hey, listen to me. And so I've actually written and been involved with several musical projects that support great causes. The first one we spoke about was the Kaikoura Earthquake Appeal. I've also written a story called Emma Had a Home, about Emmelita Bourne, the little toddler who died in Auckland from a mouldy house, and the Child Poverty Action Group have
have used that and get me to go along and play it along with a number of other songs like that to help promote their cause, so music's doing something good. This particular one is actually about climate change and the fact that maybe we can do something about it. And I wrote it when I was coming back from Taranaki music festival there, when it had been absolutely bone dry and the grass was white, and then this deluge, this sort of edge of a cyclone came by, and all of a sudden I was driving down a river rather than a road, and I was thinking about how climate change is making things more extreme, making things worse. And so the idea of when the rain comes, things are going to be okay, became a song, but it's really got a tribal feel. There's no guitar, no instruments other than drums and voices in it.
Right.
And I was asked to perform, which was really cool, by the People's Climate Change March, which ended in the steps of Parliament. And I really wasn't prepared for the number of people that would come along. So I ended up standing on the steps of Parliament with a drum, singing to 10,000 people who'd come along to support this cause.
Great.
And it was great to be asked to do it and again have music communicate and resonate with people. So thanks very much for asking me on the show and letting me tell a bit of a story and letting the music tell a bit of a story and do some good things too.
Yes, indeed. So, and before we close off, let's say a big thank you for coming to today's show. And before we close off with When the Rain Comes, so I'd like to say big thank yous. Yes.
Thank you.
This is Terry Shearer and Terry's Songwriter Show. Tuning some more songwriters, but for me, it's goodbye for now. This program is proudly sponsored by Wellington City Council Arts and Cultural Scheme. And to take us out, here we have Nigel Parry with When the Rain Comes.
When the rain comes, the paddocks red dust and the animals suffer. Grass bone white, but the land will recover. When the rain comes, this land will be green once again. When the rain comes, this land will be green once again. The water's too deep in the storm without end. Red wounds run freely, cut deep in the land. As the rain fades, these hills will be green once again. As the rain fades, these hills will be green once again. Chasing dark gold is not feeding the famished. Mining the deep till the hunger has vanished. When the tide turns, will the waters run clear once again? When the tide turns, will the waters run clear once again? Soft gentle breeze and the warmth of the ocean are thrown into turmoil by our generation. When our lights fade, will the air be clean once again? When our lights fade, will the air be clean once again? When our lights fade, will the air be clean once again? When the tide turns, will the waters run clear once again? As the rain fades, these hills will be green once again. When the rain comes, this land will be green once again. when the rain comes.
That program was brought to you by Wellington Access Radio. Get your voice heard.
Thanks New Zealand On Air for funding the Access Internet Radio project.